What's up, YouTube? It's time for a review of the new Yelawolf record, Trial by Fire, out last Friday, October 27th. A month and a half now of just white rappers on this channel. I have no idea how that happened. I guess it started with that real mediocre new Macklemore record. Then Eminem did that whole anti-Trump freestyle that I wanted to comment on. Then there was Ritz, one of my favorite rappers, and of course a Yelawolf protege who just dropped an incredibly dope new studio record, Last Call. And before you know it, here we are, and the last black rap artist I talked about was Kanye West, and that was on the 10th anniversary of graduation. Next thing you know, everyone watching is just gonna assume that I've joined the alt-right and, you know, Hail Hitler and all that shit. I just think it's funny because of all the rap that I listen to, the number of white MCs in there is like literally in the single digits. But hey, you know, things like these, they come in clusters sometimes. And, you know, shout out to A$AP Rock and Mac Miller and Apathy. Obviously, I'm completely kidding. Race has nothing to do with this shit. But I have always found it funny that all these artists, some of which I just mentioned, they end up getting somehow grouped together by assholes like me just because they happen to be a minority in a style of music. I just find that funny because they're all so distinct from each other. And speaking of being distinct, this artist that we're gonna be talking about today is incredibly unique. One could even argue that being so unique has been both a blessing and a curse in his career thus far. We're talking, of course, about Yelawolf. Coming out of his native Alabama, the guy generated a huge buzz over 7 years ago now with his classic Trunk Music mixtape, which showcased his totally exciting, totally left field approach to hip hop, whether it be his slippery double-time rhymes or his southern trailer trash aesthetic, or maybe some of his odd production choices, which had a bit of a rock influence in them. Even if it wasn't your thing, everyone could kind of acknowledge that this guy was doing something different. He was talented as hell. Off that Trunk Music tape, he got a XXL freshman spot. He got a deal with Eminem's Shady Records. I mean, things were red hot for the guy. But then unfortunately, and in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of many, he proceeded to drop two pretty disappointing studio albums for Shady Records. The first one, Radioactive, suffered from just too many crossover attempts and painful compromises, if you will. And then the second one, Love Story, which came out in 2015, that one found him fully indulging this country rap, blues rap subgenre that he'd been playing with a little, and ultimately creating some pretty interesting standout moments, but falling short with a long-winded and wildly inconsistent track list. But I'll tell you, I have kept my faith in Yelawolf. I've always felt like the guy has something special. He just, album-wise, needs to harness it and craft it into one solid body of work. Actually, around this time last year, I reviewed his Hotel EP, and I was pretty positive on it. It had more of a balance, I guess, because some of it had a traditional hip-hop vibe, and other parts had that blues rap, country rap, southern vibe to them. But overall, it definitely held me over and kept me interested in Yelawolf as an artist. And here we are, a year later, studio album number 3 from Yelawolf. And look, I'll cut right to the chase. I didn't expect to like this record. I wasn't sure if I was even gonna review it, honestly, and there wasn't even much hype or publicity around it. It just kind of came out. But, you know, I took a leap of faith. I did. I took a leap of faith with this record, and god damn. This guy has finally pulled off exactly what he's been trying to do from the get-go. Seriously. On Trial by Fire, Yelawolf takes everything that makes him different and makes him special as an artist, condenses it into a sharp, focused set of songs, and thankfully makes absolutely zero concessions when it comes to anything that doesn't have to do with his vision and his world. Trial by Fire is just, it's so unmistakably 110% Yelawolf. He has created this rap album that when you listen to it, not only is the music great, but it's so obvious that only he could have made it. It is such a unique and, as a result, deeply rewarding listening experience. You're just drawn into this guy's particular universe and you just never want to leave. And how does he do that exactly? Well, lyrically, as I'll elaborate on, this record is deeply personal and often autobiographical. Yelawolf really lets you in, as it were. And sonically, it really just remains faithful to Yelawolf's deep southern roots. He produced every track, and he just makes sure that this music sounds like it came from Gadsden, Alabama. At the same time, it never strays too left of center, and it does retain grounded songwriting and a degree of crossover appeal. So what we have ultimately is just a very singular record. It's one guy's story, one guy's universe, and musically, it exists within this real one-of-a-kind country rap, blues rap, folk rap sound. So Trial by Fire, it works on multiple levels because it reels you in with just how different it is. And then it keeps you on the line on the strength of its songwriting, and on the strength of Yelawolf's lyrical content, his ability to tell a story, his ability to paint a picture, and his ability to make you feel things. So we'll start with the production. As I mentioned earlier, sonically, a majority of this record is driven by a Southern influence, whether it's country music or blues or folk. Really, these beats are meant to set the scene for whatever story Yelawolf is telling. So since through implication, most of these narratives take place down south, it then follows that there be an appropriate soundtrack, whether it be the opening title track, which is anchored by this just snarling blues riff that's played on electric guitar, or it's the drinking anthem Daylight, which was actually a single released over a year ago now. That one is definitely the twangiest cut on the album. There's also the folky closer Keeps Me Alive. There's an overwhelming emphasis on organic instrumentation. These songs are driven by very real acoustic guitars and electric guitars, a banjo pops in here and there, some piano, some strings. The drums kind of alternate between sounding a little more synthetic and sounding like a real kit, but I just love hearing hip hop being performed over real instruments. I guess maybe just as a musician, it just makes things more interesting for me. Songs like Violin and Keeps Me Alive, Shadows, all these songs, they feature acoustic guitar as their backbone. Then a song like Ride or Die, that one incorporates some piano just to flesh it out into this sentimental ballad. Then True to Yourself, along with having some guitar in it, it also incorporates some horns. And better yet, taking things one step further to help really fully realize his vision, Yelawolf outsources a bunch of these hooks to country singers. Now, I think that Yelawolf is a strong singer himself, and we'll get to some of the hooks that he performs later. But songs like Shadows, where Joshua Headley brings just this haunting baritone, or Keeps Me Alive, where Winona Judge she sends chills down your spine. Also Violin with Lee Brice, who brings this real pained croon to that song. These guest appearances really complete these songs and definitely add a degree of authenticity as well. It's funny because those songs that I just mentioned, it's almost like they're this formulaic blueprint for any artists who might want to try this genre in the future. Like, I wonder if one day country rap is going to become this legitimate thing where you have these white guys rapping over acoustic guitars and then they bring in some prominent country artist to sing the hook. Almost like what pop rap became, with rappers outsourcing all their hooks. I mean, of course, I hope not, because I hate to see anybody riding a formula, but it is kind of amusing to think about. Now, having described all of that, though, this entire album is not driven by just country or blues sounds. Refreshingly so, because I think there's a healthy balance. Like a song like Do for Love. The verses in that song are powered by these acoustic guitars, but then when the chorus comes around, things turn digital, and now it's these synthesizers that are responding to Yelawolf's vocals. Then there's Row Your Boat, which is a more typical instrumental. You know, it's got some 808 hi-hats in there, some keyboard loops, a little bit of guitars way in the background, but that's about it. Of course, the most stark contrast on this album has to be the song Punk, where in the verses you've got these frenzied hillbilly rhythms, and then the chorus comes, and fucking Juicy J shows up. I had no earthly idea how Juicy J could possibly fit into this album, and yet he kills it. He fucking kills it. Ad-libs and all. And fittingly so, the instrumental behind him for his part, it's got the kind of snare claps that you'd hear in a trap song. So from a production standpoint, this album really has layers to it. The whole country rap thing, it comes and goes as fits the songs. I think actually like the opening lyric from, I think it's the second verse of Punk, it's the most fitting, where Yelawolf references 3-6 Mafia and Hank Williams in the same bar. Now, all that being said, regardless of how this album even fucking sounds, I still haven't hit on the best thing about it, which is how intensely personal Yelawolf gets. He is really spilling his soul on a lot of these songs. One of my favorites is Son of a Gun, in which each of the 3 verses discusses a different period in Yelawolf's life. Verse 1 is his turbulent childhood, you know, his strained relationship with his mother and her boyfriend. You know, he never knew his dad. Discusses always kind of feeling like an outcast from pretty early on. And again, from early on, music was an outlet for him. And he closes the verse with a fun, sort of random reference to Fat Joe's Make It Rain. Then verse 2 of Son of a Gun discusses his emerging adulthood and his late teens and how he started to really go down this self-destructive path. And then the third and final verse, which is my favorite and definitely the most powerful, he brings things into the present day, where here he is, he's created this incredible career for himself, where music is not only a source of income and stability for him, it's also an outlet for his own personal demons and struggles, but most importantly, it's now an outlet for his many fans. He has a great line on here where he talks about many fatherless children filling up the pit at his shows, i.e. there are people like him at his shows who are using music the same way he did. And now he's contributing to them being able to exercise their own demons. Basically, things have come full circle for him in a way. He sees himself in a lot of the people who listen to his music. Then there's Keeps Me Alive, which, like Son of a Gun, is another autobiographical song that begins in Yelawolf's childhood and progresses to the present day. And in this one, he comes to the gut-wrenching but heartfelt conclusion that currently his own daughter is kind of going through what he went through as a kid in a way, because her father is never around either, because Yelawolf's constantly on the road trying to make a living. But he puts a bit of a positive spin on it, telling her to use what she's going through now to chase her dreams when she grows up. I'm telling you, a lot of the greatness of this record really has nothing to do with how it sounds. I personally love how it sounds, but just these themes are so compelling and so deeply moving. Speaking of Yelawolf's daughter, one of the darkest songs on here is called Sabrina, in which he details this disturbingly vivid nightmare in which his daughter ends up drowning on his watch. He's like a fucking novelist on this song, the way he builds suspense and describes every little detail of the scene, and then the end of the song is just pure emotion. When he finds his daughter dead, he lashes out at God himself, saying, look, if you let her die like that, you don't deserve her. You know, Yelawolf has always been a very descriptive MC, and on this record, he's really using that gift to its maximum potential. I could go on and on and on and on there. I mean, Do for Love, that one narrates parents just doing what they can, even when it's sometimes illegal or frowned upon, in order to provide for their children. Whether it's dealing drugs or stripping or whatever, Yelawolf asks the listener, look, what would you do for love? What would you do to provide for your child if you didn't have the means? How far would you go? Ride or Die, that's another one. Maybe my favorite, maybe. It literally made me tear up the first time I heard it. It's a song, an anthem about unconditional love and friendship even as you grow apart from somebody. The hook to this song, it literally creates this visual of Yelawolf sitting on a porch somewhere in Alabama just strumming his guitar as the sun goes down and he's singing this song, which by the way is one of his best vocal performances, this hook. I also just want to say that I love how on this album sometimes lyricism just comes second for Yelawolf. He's such a gifted rhymer, but he is clearly so focused on just servicing the song with a cut like Ride or Die, which that's one of my biggest criticisms of people like Tech9 and Hobson and even Yelawolf's label mate Crooked I. Sometimes they really strain the narrative or the theme of their songs by just trying to stack too many syllables on top of each other. And Yelawolf on here, you know, he's got endless cool flows and he goes off sometimes, but he really just doesn't sound like he cares at all about trying to impress you with his technical ability. He's just all about the songs on this record. But one more time to just beat this point to death. Yelawolf's music on Trial by Fire is so visual. He really just takes you into his world. This album, like any great album, takes your mind and transports it. The last set of lyrics that I have to discuss here is the song Row Your Boat, which in general is this wonderful extended metaphor about individuality and staying true to yourself. Yelawolf says, you know, I've got my own boat. I don't care if there's room on yours or not, which it's a very cool theme, but the fascinating part on this song happens when Yelawolf addresses racism. He openly discusses this huge irony of him being a white guy from Alabama, which he admits is a pretty racist place, and participating in a predominantly black art form and black culture. He tackles this whole thing in a real honest, real no-nonsense way. And I love how he was able to convey that yes, there's some ugly ideology where he's from, and he does not condone that. But he still maintains his Southern pride. I think that's a very human and perfectly normal contradiction to have. And you know, maybe this little part of this song was in response to he had some controversial things to say about the Confederate flag. But I think the way he resolved it was to not resolve it at all, just to admit that we're all full of contradictions and this is mine. Look, I've been listening to this record for a week and a half now, and I'm really struggling to find any negatives on here. Obviously, the Kid Rock hook on the song Get Mine is a little hokey, and I expected to just hate this whole song, but shockingly, it gets interesting in the second half. There's just this crazy genre stew that happens, which it kicks off with these DJ scratches, and then it moves into these creepy Halloween keys, then these really catchy funk guitars, then distorted rock electric guitars. The production, it's anything goes. It's exciting, and rapping-wise, Yelawolf, he sounds like he's having the most fun on this song. His delivery is almost like nu metal-y. And this song, you know, I didn't like it the first couple times, but it really started to grow on me. I suppose you could just trim off a song like True to Yourself. Not even that it's a bad song, just that there are other songs on the back end of this record that kind of fulfill that quota. But really, there's not a single song on Trial by Fire that I don't enjoy. Gotta give Yelawolf props for being so self-sufficient as a hip-hop artist too. Producing this whole thing himself, doing most of the hooks. It's so clearly his vision from beginning to end. Like always, he's going to the beat of his own drummer, but this time around, it's entirely to his benefit. Trial by Fire is without a doubt one of the most unique rap records that you're going to hear all year, especially when it comes to the mainstream. And you know, I get that for a lot of people, this just won't be your thing, and that's cool. I actually didn't expect to like it myself, but here I am, a week and a half later, my ears just glued to it, probably with a slot for it in my top 10 albums of 2017. He has finally done what he's been going for. I love the production, I love the lyrics, I love the songs, I love Yelawolf's whole aesthetic and personality and charisma. He's finally bottled his scatterbrained talent into an exceptional body of work. This review just took me a while to put together because I was just having such a hard time finding the words for why this record was so special to me. I wanted to be really articulate with this one, and I hope I pulled it off to some extent. And if you're still watching, you made it to the end, thank you so much for sticking with me. I really hope that you got something out of this. Trial by Fire gets a 9 out of 10 from me. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, or shoot me a message so we can continue to talk music, and I'll see you guys soon.